Thank you, everyone, for joining this maritime webinar. We are hosting some industry experts today to go deeper into some of the important topics that have been plaguing this industry, as well as to hear from our experts what solutions exist out there and what the possible alternatives are in building the workforce in this offshore wind and the broader maritime industry. Some of us here have had a chance to meet earlier this year where we had a maritime roundtable. Some of the takeaways of that roundtable led us into having this recorded webinar where we can actually have a closer look at how the industry goes about apprenticeship programs, training programs, and what career pathways exist in this industry. This effort is to educate our stakeholders in the private sector, in the public sector, in the academia, to be aware of how they could go about shoring up these resources, how they could go around educating our youth into becoming better versed at finding new options for their careers. So we will have Lloyd Lomellino, who's the project officer at the Wind Institute, who will be moderating this panel. I am Siddharth Katoli, the senior advisor, Clean Energy Partnerships team. And we have three excellent panelists who I've had a chance and have gotten to know them very closely during this time. Sloan Peras, Raymond Henderson, and Julie Chabreau, who will go about introducing themselves, but we'll kick it off and I'll hand it over to my colleague Lloyd to start the proceedings.
Thank you, Siddhartha, so much. Appreciate the introduction. As mentioned, my name is Lloyd Lomellino. I'd like to welcome everybody to our maritime webinar today. I'm a project officer with the Wind Institute at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, and I will be moderating today as we explore the topic of maritime workforce and training opportunities. And whether you're new to the sector or looking to enhance your existing expertise, understanding the training pathways available is critical to entering or advancing in this field. So we feel like this is going to be a really valuable webinar for those that are in attendance today. We have an exciting lineup of experts who will share their insights on how to get started and how to leverage these training opportunity programs to build a successful career as a mariner. So without further ado, let's dive into the discussion and hear from our panelists. To begin, I think we would like to start by discussing the opportunities and the resources available for someone interested in entering the workforce, the maritime workforce, that is. And I'd like to start with you, Julie. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your current role and maybe some of the educational and training resources that led you to where you currently are.
Sure, thanks, Lloyd. My name is Julie Chabreau. I currently am a native New Jerseyan. I grew up in North Jersey, currently living in Brick, New Jersey at the Jersey Shore. When I was younger, I had an uncle who was in the maritime workforce. He used to work offshore on supply vessels similar to the ones that my company, North Star Marine, run today. And I always saw him as a kid doing really interesting stuff on boats offshore. I thought it was neat. And so when I went to apply for college, I looked into the maritime schools and ended up with a full scholarship to Massachusetts Maritime Academy. I got my degree in marine engineering there, and I'm sure we'll talk about this a bit further, but I currently now am a business development manager at North Star Marine, which is a New Jersey-based company out of Cape May, New Jersey. We have vessels that range from 20 feet to 280 feet, and we offer a variety of marine services from salvage to offshore support vessels to basically anything that you could possibly need to do offshore.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. Yeah. Wondering if you could double click a little bit on, the education from, say higher education or college
Sure.
perspective. There's multiple pathways in that program or in those programs from my understanding. Can you speak a little bit to some of those different pathways that you could see, based on maybe a personal interest someone might have, or, maybe a subject matter expert, or excuse me, a subject they're very strong in?
Absolutely.
Maybe there's a certain path that would be better for that individual.
Right. So the maritime schools all vary in the which degrees they offer, but they're all pretty similar. So where I went, Massachusetts Maritime Academy, when I was there, was offering what's called a marine transportation degree, which is the degree that you would take in case you were interested in going the bridge route, working as a mate and eventually a captain. You could also go the engineering route, where you'd end up as a licensed engineer, beginning from the lower third engineer position and working your way up to chief engineer. And then there were also other degrees that were offered, such as maritime business, which is a business degree focused in the maritime and logistics sector. There's an environmental protection and marine biology degree that is kind of focused around environmental protection and mammal observing. And then there's also an emergency management degree, which is kind of more for people who are interested in helping during major emergencies. A lot of them now work for FEMA, JetBlue. They work at airports. So it's kind of based upon what you're interested in the maritime sector. There's a route to go no matter what maritime school you go to. I know some of them also offer a naval architecture degree in conjunction with another degree or on its own. So I personally always had an affinity for math and science, and I've always loved the ocean. I worked on boats growing up on the Hudson River throughout high school. So I kind of combined those two likes of my own and ended up in the maritime world as a marine engineer. But anybody with any sort of affinity towards boats, if you kind of have more of if you want to be more of on the navigational route, you would go in as a mate for marine transportation. If you were interested in marine biology, there's an opportunity there. And there's multiple maritime schools throughout the U.S., specifically, and most of them focus in the Northeast.
Great. That's really helpful to understand that there's a pathway through higher education. And then, on the other side of that coin, I'd like to ask Ray to speak a little bit to what the Seafarers Union does, and maybe we can understand a little bit more about their role in mariner training and the resources they offer, and how the services that they offer differs from that of universities or community colleges that offer maritime curriculum. So Ray, would you mind speaking a little bit about SIU, please?
Sure, no problem. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ray Henderson. I am the business agent for the Seafarers International Union here in the New York, New Jersey area. We are the largest maritime union in the United States, who employ the largest U.S. maritime workforce. We always represent the largest maritime training facility in Southern Maryland. Our training facility is free for our members, and we also have one of the longest and quickest apprenticeship programs to get into the maritime industry, which is 16 weeks. We understand a lot of people who come out of high school either don't want to go to college or can't afford a college and do want to come into the maritime industry. We provide that pathway for them. It's a 16-week program in Piney Point, Maryland. Once you complete that 16 weeks, we place you on your first vessel in an entry-level position where you're going to get union wages and union benefits. And then it starts going into sea time. Our whole career is based on sea time. Once you get to sea time enough, you start your career path. Either you're going to go to deck path, you're going to go to engine path, or even if you really want to go on the culinary path, we do need people on ships to cook. And the culinary department is a wonderful program we have down there. And once you complete our culinary program, you do get an associate's degree from Southern Maryland Culinary Program. I went through the program 30 plus years ago. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was a wonderful program. I always said when I left the military, I didn't want to get a real job. The maritime industry affords you not to have a real job. It's a very tough industry. It's a very challenging industry. But when you get off, your time off is your own time. You can do whatever you want when you're home. You can go anywhere you want, and you answer to nobody. So that is the wonderful part of the maritime industry. When I started, I always called it 3 hots in a cot, or a prison with a chance of drowning. But now we have internet on ships, so it has improved tremendously in the last few years. So it's not that bad. You can go on a ship, you can FaceTime your family, you can pay bills. So it's not as bad as it used to be. It's not we're not Columbus days no more. But it's a wonderful career. We do offer opportunities to go and get your license and become an officer in our school. And we always say all our training is free. So if you go to a school like Julie, Mass Maritime, if you don't get a free ride or a full scholarship, you will pay a lot of money to go to a maritime college. If you go through our school and our program, we guarantee you will not pay a dime to get the same license you went through for 4-year degree, and you're going to have a lot of money in your pocket. So again, a lot of people don't want to go to college. I didn't go to college when I left high school. I joined the military. The military paid for my college when I was in the military, and I didn't use my degree at all. I got a degree in communications, and I didn't touch my degree. I became a mariner, and I would never look back on my career. And it's the best thing in the world for me.
Thanks, Ray. I think it's really important to highlight that, there is an alternate route besides going to college, to a maritime university. You can be an apprentice or work through apprentice programs like SIU offers. And I think that's really valuable for those that are interested in entering the workforce. And Ray, another question for you. Once you were to go through the apprenticeship programs, what does it take to work your way up the ladder, so to speak, for advancing your career or improving or gaining new credentials and upskilling? Can you speak a little bit to how one would do that after one enters the workforce?
So you come out of the apprenticeship program as an OS, which is ordinary seaman, or a wiper, which is the lowest scale. The apprenticeship program gives you sea time going through the apprenticeship program. You go on your first ship, you do your 4 months, 120 days. Then you go back to school because you have 180 days of sea time, and you sit for your RFP&W, which is rating part of navigational watch. Once the Coast Guard gives you that endorsement, you have to go back out and sail on that endorsement for, I'm thinking now it's 120 days now. And then once you get that sea time plus the school time, you can go back to school and sit for your able seafarer deck, which is your AB ticket. Then you come out as an AB limited, and then you got to sail 365 days as an AB, and then you can resubmit for your documents to become an AB unlimited, or you're sitting for your third mate license. And that's the deck side. And of course, it's international. It's all international rules. National rules are a little more, it's a little easier, national rules. And we never understood why national rules are easier than international rules, because it's an AB is an AB no matter what kind of ship you're on. Engine is a little easier, but there's more steps in engine. Once you become a rating part engineering watch, you got to sail on that. Once you sail on that for 4 months, you go back for your oiler, fireman, water tender. You sail on that for 6 months, and then you become a QMed. And then the QMed has different ratings inside the QMed. And a QMed's a qualified member of the engine department. Eventually, you become a QMed electrician on a vessel, which is the highest person on the ship, unlicensed, for the SIU. And then you sit for your third mate, your third engineer license. The culinary side, if you want to go on a ship and cook, the Coast Guard has no regulations over them. The Coast Guard doesn't think they exist on a ship. I don't know why. We have to be fed. And there's 3 people in a galley all the time. There's a SA who does the dishes, cleans up behind themselves. He goes back to our school to become a cook. Once he gets a little more sea time and seasons as a cook, he goes back to our school to become the steward, and then he sails as a steward on the vessel. And the goal, we all make the same amount of money. It doesn't make a difference what path you go, because we are a union. We don't, one person doesn't get paid more than another person. So once your skill keeps going up, what path you take, you all get paid the same. So that's it in a nutshell.
Lloyd, could y'all pull up, if you pull up my last slide, it's a great illustration of what Ray just went through so people can see it. So this is exactly what Ray was just going through, and it just gives you a really good visual to kind of see where you start and how you progress up the 2 main chains. Sorry, Lloyd, I didn't mean to jump
No problem at all. No, I think having the visual reference is helpful as well. So, there's clearly pathways for working your way up, changing your credential or upskilling yourself to become a higher value asset on ships as well. That's really valuable. Thank you. Appreciate those overviews, Ray and Julie. Thank you for that. I think for my next question, I want to shift our conversation a little bit, and I'd like to focus more towards on maritime services wholly. What does the maritime industry offer as a service for other industries. And I think it would be also nice to particularly focus on renewable energy because that is a new and growing industry here in the United States. And offshore wind is rapidly becoming a key player in the maritime industry, and it offers a lot of opportunities as well. So with that in mind, Sloan, I was wondering if maybe you could speak to that topic a bit. You know, what are the roles and job opportunities in this growing industry for maritime? And if you could also talk about some of the specific services the industry provides for offshore wind, I think that'd be really helpful to everybody.
Sure, it'd be my pleasure. Thank you for having me. So for renewable energy, whether it's onshore or offshore, the supply chain is not 100% domestic. It's a global supply chain to bring all the components together. And so you have maritime vessels of all different categories. So we'll have container ships and heavy lift vessels. And in the harbor, we'll have tugs. We'll have barges moving components upriver. We'll have refueling vessels. And the reason I point out all of those vessels is because each vessel, although they all still have the same generalized positions that Ray went through, starting with the cook and going up to the captain or the master engineer, the days at sea are different for each one. And I think that's a really important thing to emphasize when Ray was talking about how the quality of life has gotten better on board. There's also a choice of how long you want to be on board. You can work on a ship that is at sea for 6 months, and you can work for a company like my former company, Foss Maritime, that has day tugs, and the mariners go home every night. So there, not only is there is it a cushier job than it used to because of technology, it also gives you a lot of flexibility to establish your own work-life balance, and you can decide at each phase of your life where you want to be. And I think Ray and Julie both would confirm that you can start in one area, on a container ship, on a heavy lift, on an offshore vessel, and then you can change as your life expectations change. And I think that's an opportunity and a benefit in the maritime space that you don't always get when you're at a desk job or when you're in other careers where you always have to be in the field until you go get an advanced degree and able to come back inside. So I would want to emphasize that just about every type of vessel in the U.S. fleets are involved in some capacity in renewable energy. And then specifically to kind of dive a little bit deeper, and I think Julie can kind of speak to some of these very well. You have your research and your support vessels deploying autonomous vehicles to do surveys. Fishing boats are used to do mammal watching and to provide security for wind farms at sometimes. My former company provided the feeder barge solution. And so when you, in the US, when you're going between 2 points in the US, you have to use what we call Jones Act vessels, which are built in the US, owned by US citizens, and crewed by US citizen mariners. And those are a really key part of our supply chain in renewable energy, because part of the commitment to offshore wind and a lot of renewable energy initiatives is to promote and bring jobs back into our communities, especially our underserved communities. And so a important element of using the Jones Act and offshore wind is that we are increasing the jobs available for people to have a variety of careers, from right out of high school to the most advanced engineering, architecture, biology degrees. The whole gamut can be used in offshore wind. And then on the marine side, for the feedering barge solution, they may go out for 1 to 3 days at a time. You can see some of the big components behind me at a facility my current company built not my current company, the members of my current company helped build. But as you can see, the components are very, very large. So it takes a jackup vessel and very large cranes to end up putting together what you see behind Annalisa, which is the foundation, turbine, and blades. So all of those jobs, all of this construction is done on vessels, and our first installation vessel is coming out of construction, I think, shortly. And so the U.S. will actually have just about every type of vessel that is used in offshore wind within the next, let's say, 18 months.
Julie, I was wondering if maybe you could also speak a bit to that same question, given your expertise and your experience working and managing offshore wind projects. Is there anything that you could add with respect to the opportunities the maritime industry might have within renewable energy sector?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always been work on the East Coast for vessels of all shapes, sizes, and ranges. But as we are seeing more and more activity from the renewable sector, there's just more and more opportunity for jobs. We have expanded our fleet in the past couple of years to be able to accommodate the need for vessels in specifically in the Northeast, but along the entirety of the East Coast. And where there are more vessels, there is a need for more crew. And where there is a need for more crew, we pull from the local regions. So, at North Star Marine, we have hired on many, many more crew just in the past 2 years as we've seen the need for vessels in the region expand.
Great, thank you. Ray, anything to add based on your experience at SIU with respect to renewable energy opportunities or even just maritime industry growing broadly?
With the renewable energy, obviously I got to deal with New York, New Jersey, New Bedford. My zone is wide. It's the renewable energy now. We're starting to get into the training. Like Sloan was saying, we don't need big licenses for it for deep sea. They'll need smaller license, 100 ton, 500 ton. So we're ramping up the training for that because we don't train for that low of a license. So we are training our members down to get 100 ton, 500 ton. Some of the vessels don't need ABs. Some of the vessels do need ABs and engineers. So our pool to pull from, no matter where the job site is we can pull nationally. So if Kirby or Foss Marine or Crawley needs members up in New Bedford and we don't have it in the New York area, we can pull members from California who have those qualifications and they'll fly them out there to do the job and then fly them home when the job's finished. With the SIU and just like everyone else on this panel, we're trying to keep the jobs here in America for U.S. citizens because if all of us understand if we let the foreign flags or the foreign companies come in and start this work, it's just a slow way to take away the Jones Act, and eventually we'll all be out of a job. So that's why, as a union, especially the SIU, we don't go around with a big hammer trying to hammer smaller companies that go union or go non-union. We just want to make sure that all the work stays U.S. citizen, stays local for the community and the local companies, and that's what we try to do.
And I want to emphasize Ray made a great point. So for day work on a tug that works just in a harbor like Boston Harbor or New York, New Jersey Harbor, a lot of times they do live locally. But on the bigger ships that go out to sea for longer periods of time, the mariners may live anywhere in the U.S. And that is a really normal thing that we all that's just been the norm for generations of mariners. They don't necessarily live on the coast. And so a really great thing to kind of understand is if you grew up and you live in New Jersey, but maybe you don't like the really cold winters and you want to live somewhere warmer, you can pick a lifestyle on the ocean that allows you to work in a New Jersey company, work offshore, and fly back and forth, which is a customary part of transportation when you're doing it once a month or once every 3 months or once every 6 months, depending on how long your ship is out to sea. And you can choose which vessels you want to go to, really, because what Ray was saying, that there's kind of a shortage of mariners, that means we call that a buyer's market. And that means that the people coming up and going through training with organizations like the SIU or coming out of the maritime schools can be a little choosy about their jobs. And so that's a really great opportunity for people who want to make sure it's a good fit.
I just wanted to speak to that point as well, actually, Sloan. So I felt like you were speaking to me when you said that. When I came out of Mass Maritime in 2012, I was a New Jersey native who hated the cold, and I went to college in Massachusetts and just wanted to get away from the cold. So I actually moved to Hawaii and chose a job on a ship that was offering 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. So I would go out for 6 weeks on my ship, and then I would come home for 6 weeks. But my 6 weeks off was completely off, like Ray had mentioned before. No one was bothering me in my time off. My relief was on the vessel and was in charge of all of the duties that I am no longer in charge of for those 6 weeks. So I got to spend 6 weeks every 6 weeks in Hawaii, enjoying the warm weather. And once my 6 weeks was up, I would go back to my ship and work for another 6 weeks. And so basically 6 months out of the year, you can live wherever you want. Now I am back to the cold winters in New Jersey, and I work for a New Jersey-based company, like I mentioned. And again, to speak to Ray's point, North Star Marine is a 100% Jones Act company, meaning all of our vessels were built in the United States, are owned by a United States company, which is North Star Marine, and are crewed by all United States citizens.
Those are all great ads. You can work locally, in state, maybe even in county, depending on where you are. Or if you're interested, you could see the world. You can work in other states, nationally, internationally. And it speaks to the flexibility in the maritime industry. And really, really thank you for your insights into those topics. I think it provides a lot of context for someone that's interested in entering the industry, into their pathways and opportunities. As we come to the end of today's discussion, I want to thank our panelists for sharing their invaluable insights into the maritime industry and also the training opportunities that are associated with the industry. The future of the maritime industry is bright, and with the right training, expertise, and a pipeline of new mariners, the industry will directly support New Jersey's clean energy goals. And I hope that this discussion has inspired you to explore the resources we discussed and to prepare you for your next steps in your maritime career. Thank you, everybody, and I will pass it back to Siddharth.
Great. Thank you, Lloyd. And thank you, Sloan, Julie, Ray. Very, very rich discussions. I think I want to just quickly highlight some of the things for our viewers. Julie, you touched upon the various educational and training resources, how someone can start, with the business side and engineering side as a deckhand, mammal observing. Ray, I wanted to really also highlight some of the things you mentioned, which is that you're the largest maritime union and have the largest workforce with the capacity to pull crew nationally. And you're working hard to keep American jobs in America. And Sloan, I think if I had known that I could be working on a ship 6 weeks and being in Hawaii for 6 weeks, well, I wish I had known that earlier. I think there's a lot of youth and adults that might actually want that kind of a lifestyle, and also might want to change, locations, change states, be where they want to be. You could be inland. You don't have to be on the coast, like you said, and be able to go on sea, on ship, and then come back for an equal amount of time on land and not be bothered at all. So I think what we've heard today is a lot of different possibilities. So having said that, again, thank you so much, Julie, Sloan, Ray, and Lloyd and Annalisa. Lloyd, thanks for moderating the panel.
To learn more, visit our website, get in touch with us via email, or scan the QR code to sign up for New Jersey offshore wind updates.